Hello, everyone. This is Margie Ramos of Original and Unconventional. And today we are here with Nick Moran. He is the CEO and co founder of Intercosmic Energy. And their mission is to mine Bitcoin in space using space based solar power. Nick, welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me on, Margie. It's a pleasure.
Nick, I know you're super busy, and I'm really grateful that you made the time to chat with me today and to share with us what you're working on. So, what you're doing is freaking cool. All right, I just want to put it out there. It also sounds impossible, and to a lot of people, this sounds like, whoa, like how is he gonna do that? How is it gonna make it possible? So I would love to know, your origin story. Like, how did you get into Bitcoin and also Bitcoin mining in space?
Yeah, no, I would love to answer that. So I got into the Bitcoin and crypto space back in early to mid 2017. Initially, I stumbled upon it because of the speculation in the tokens. I saw that there was money that could be made trading. And this was back in my early 20s, so I was pretty green to how, the financial world worked, and especially how Bitcoin and crypto worked in a large sense. So once I speculated with a lot of different altcoins and tokens and bought some of my first Bitcoin back then, once 2018, early 2018 came along and there was my first bear market, I sold a lot of the altcoins that I had bought, but I had held all the Bitcoin that I bought because when you put your money into something, at least for me, I have to do as much research as possible to make sure I'm not just burning money or flushing it down the toilet. So once I started doing, the hard work of studying and understanding how revolutionary Bitcoin was, and I guess to a certain extent, crypto's pretty innovative as well. If you're taking money that can be transferred at the speed of the internet without an intermediary, I knew that, if time was money and money was time, that this was going to be the future in one way, shape, or form. So once I started doing the hard work of studying, I stumbled upon Anthony Pompliano and Mark Yusko and their teachings of Bitcoin. So with them, they had a really great understanding, and still do to this day, of just being really good teachers of how Bitcoin works and why it's worth holding as a long-term investment. So that kept me in the space to continue studying as I worked my day job as a refinery operator. I worked as a refinery operator for my entire 20s. And, during that time I was just, stacking sats and just continuing my study with Bitcoin. And I realized that I shouldn't be focusing on other crypto or altcoins. So I concentrated it all into Bitcoin, which ended up being a really good decision. But that's what got me into, Bitcoin itself. And then being in the energy industry, Bitcoin mining ties in to what I was doing pretty well because I was working in a energy intensive process. So similar to Bitcoin mining, it's very energy intensive, but the beauty of some energy intensive processes is it converts that energy into value. So working as a refinery operator, we're taking energy and converting different gases and molecules into refined finished products, like nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide. And with Bitcoin mining, what you're doing is you're taking electricity or energy and converting it into money. So for me, that all, well, it was an easy learning curve. It wasn't too steep, but just having good teachers along the way, like Anthony Pompliano and Mark Yusko, along with many others on Bitcoin Twitter as well. So what ended up becoming how I got to the point of Bitcoin mining in space was at the end of 2024, around October, November. I had the idea of putting Bitcoin mining satellites into orbit and utilizing all the energy of the sun that we can, while also utilizing the cold of space to cool the miners to keep an operation running 24/7. And what dawned on me was it is the first time that we could take orbital solar energy and convert that into money, so Bitcoin, and be able to send that Bitcoin back to Earth. So really, you just created a digital transmission line, or a transmission line of digital energy from space to Earth. So once I stumbled upon that, I actually reached out to Anthony Pompliano. I had never actually talked to him before, but I sent him my idea of Bitcoin mining in space and how revolutionary it could be to also include space-based solar power into the energy mix for the US and hopefully other countries as well. And he loved the idea. So he wrote a life-changing Substack article on it towards the end of 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that totally spurred this whole endeavor of Bitcoin mining in space, because a lot of venture capital and a lot of people with money approached me and wanted to make this a reality. So yeah, I mean, you really do miss all the shots in life that you don't take. Like if I never would have messaged Anthony, we wouldn't be talking today. So yeah, it's pretty amazing the things you can do. You can just do things. So
I love
I
it.
yeah.
So, how did you find Anthony Pompliano? Like, did you reach out to him on X, or did you know anybody who kind of like introduced you?
I actually just DM'd him on X. So
Oh, wow.
a little backstory here. So I used to run the Twitter account that was not Larry Fink. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was like I had actually been on Twitter from like
Oh,
2017. Yeah, I'd been on Twitter since 2017, and I never made an account, but I had like a list of 20 people that were like I had boiled down over the years that were people that were worth listening to in the space that I learned from. And when Elon Musk bought X in 2023, I actually had to make a profile. So I actually was like looking through some clever Twitter handles, and I was like, you know what? Larry Fink, he's one of the most influential people in finance. And if you dive down the rabbit hole of really how the world works and how how a lot of things get funded, and like BlackRock's the biggest name in finance. They have the most assets under management as a firm. So it was funny the timing of it. It was right before Larry Fink
mm-hmm.
got into Bitcoin and decided that BlackRock was going to launch a spot ETF. So I actually created the handle Not Larry Fink. I had a profile picture of Larry Fink with laser eyes and the whole 9 yards. And so many people were fooled by it. And I was really good. Like I'd watched enough of his interviews to get like kind of his mannerisms and how he talks and his quotes and stuff. So
Oh,
that
wow.
actually brought in a lot of people to start like it brought attention to it. And so when I reached out to Anthony, I actually had the Not Larry Fink account that I reached out
I
to him with.
see.
And
How many followers did you have at that time?
well, it like almost 10,000. And I had it for like
Mm-hmm.
a year before, well, I didn't mark it as a parody, so it got taken down like not too long after I reached out to Anthony. So I think the time that I had that Twitter profile, it was kind of funny how that overlapped. Like, Not Larry Fink went away, and then Intercosmic Energy for me became the forefront. So it was like a nice transition of like where to put my time, focus, and energy. But when I reached out to Anthony, it was through that account. So if I didn't have like a catchy Twitter name, maybe that would have got his attention, maybe he wouldn't have responded back to me. Because I think a large part of it was not only was he really interested in the idea, but I think he wanted to know who Not Larry Fink was too. So
Mm,
that
I
actually
see.
worked out great. So when I actually met up with Anthony over Zoom, we got along really well and had a really awesome conversation for like a half hour, and it was cool. It was kind of like it was a full circle moment. He orange pilled me back in the day with Mark Yusko, and then he introduced me to a lot of like groundbreaking concepts that Bitcoin had, and it was cool that in due time that I could introduce a really cool concept that only Bitcoin could do for humanity back to Anthony, where he learned from it and then wanted to reach back out to me. So I consider him a friend today. He helps me out in a lot of ways, and he's still a great wealth of knowledge. So that's kind of how that came to be.
Wow, that's a really cool story, and there's so many stories like that. People meeting, people like that on X on Twitter. I actually meet some of like people I'm interviewing on the podcast on X. And I myself was, I had a big following on Bitcoin Twitter back in like 2020, 2021, 2022, up to like 2023. And then I had to like shut down my account.
Oh no,
It was, yeah, it was also an
what happened?
anonymous account. I don't want to get too much into it, but
That's fair.
yeah, no, but I met so many Bitcoiners there, right? Like I would meet them on Twitter, X, and then when I go to conferences, I would meet them in person. So it was pretty fun. Um, but even you, right? Like I was following you on X, then I added you on LinkedIn, and I'm like, hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast as a guest. So I really love how X, LinkedIn are helping us connect with people that we want to meet in person or remotely,
Yeah.
who are doing these like really cool things like you. So, all right. So I love, how you told us like your origin story, how Anthony Pompliano also inspired you, and then he pumped you up, right? Pun intended. With
Uh,
your idea here. So, where are you at right now with Intercosmic Energy? Like, you have co-founders, right? Maybe you can tell
yeah,
us a
yeah,
little
I
bit
do.
about them.
Yeah, most definitely. So I founded Intercosmic Energy at the end of 2024. Recruited Dr. Michael Myers and Bradley Hawley, who have collectively decades of experience in the private and defense sector, with the Air Force and Space Force, and also in the private sector as well, where they currently are employed today, and also working on this project. So yeah, no, we're working right now on actually building this, fundraising, and we also have a patent pending for the first Bitcoin mining satellite and the architecture as well. So we have the whole blueprint for it. It's coming down to the fundraising, and we're pitching to many, many VCs. And this has been an
Wow.
ongoing thing for about a year. So yeah, it's exciting times. I wouldn't rather be working on anything else. This is really cool. Like I just look back at the days where I worked a 9 to 5 for so many years, and I kind of wish I would have done this sooner, to be honest. I mean, it's funny when you're in a situation where the pain of staying hasn't quite exceeded the pain of leaving. But sometimes in life, you have to have persistence and work really hard. But once you're somewhere where, the pain of staying exceeds the pain of leaving, you should probably do it. And that's what happened with me was, once that happened at my 10-year career in the energy industry, um, it was within a couple months that, I feel like God blessed me with a new path. And
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, which led into something that I'm extremely passionate about. I mean, I've studied Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining for 8 years, over 12,000 hours studied. Have always had a fascination with space and astronomy, and I really understand. I'm a quick learner, so like I understand, the physics of space very well for
Mm-hmm.
somebody who doesn't have the background for it. And it's because I have people around me that are really good teachers, and I want to learn. So I have the affinity for it, and seeing this come to life in real time over the last year and a half has been pretty surreal. So yeah, I'm just really thankful to be sitting where I am today.
Oh, no, it's really exciting. And it's just the beginning, right? But even
Oh
then,
yeah.
it's already like, wow, like, who is this guy doing this? And when you say that you don't have a background in that, it's interesting because I find that a lot of people who are doing these like really cool things that seem impossible, they don't necessarily have a background in that. Like, they just decide that, like, okay, I'm going to like not stay in my lane and do something completely different, even though I don't have the educational background in it, and I'm going to study it. And then I'm going to learn, and I'm going to connect with the right people who can help me turn this vision into reality.
Yeah, no, you're
And that's what
totally
you're
right.
doing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate acknowledging that. Like it comes down to, having the self-discipline, and also not only that, but also having like the risk tolerance for it too, because there's a reason why a lot of people just work 9 to 5 and, they stay within their means. And, I don't look down anybody or discount anybody for that. I totally
Mm-hmm.
get it. A lot of people can tolerate. For me, maybe comfort isn't tolerable for me. I think is what I figured out. It's
Mm.
like if I'm too comfortable, that means I could be doing something that could challenge me more and something that could be much more rewarding and have much bigger payoff. And to be exploring what I'm exploring today is pretty different than what I was doing for 10 years. So I am just grateful for the opportunities. And sometimes, you just have to strike, you just have to strike the iron while it's hot, I think is a good way to put it. So
Mm-hmm.
this is an opportunity I could not let pass up. So I'm putting, full speed ahead on this and pedal to the metal. So I want to see how far I can take this, and I want to make this a reality. And my two co-founders do as well. They see the vision. They're the perfect people for this. Like since I don't have the perfect background for it, they definitely do. So yeah, we actually have a really good team. We really do. So yeah, it's fun and exciting times.
Yeah, and you have the vision for it. I think that's like the most important thing. You have the vision, you have the risk tolerance for it. You have, the enthusiasm and like the passion, and you're also work in the energy sector, right? So it's like you do have a background in it. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're under like you're trying to be more like low key here, but like you're I feel like you're the perfect guy for this. And on top of that, like I saw on X, you also know Philip Johnston of StarCloud, right? So has he given you any feedback? Have you spoken to him about this?
Oh yeah, of course we have. So I connected with him not too long after I actually got in touch with Anthony. He actually was the one who pointed me his way. He was like, "Do you know?" He asked me the same question. He's like, "Do you know Philip Johnston?" And back then they were called Lumen Orbit. And he's like, "So do
Mm.
you know Philip Johnson from Lumen Orbit? They're putting data centers into space. They might be really good. He might be somebody who's really good to talk to about what you want to do." And so I actually reached out to Philip, and he's a wealth of knowledge, one very kind, and he responded back to me. We actually got on a Zoom call early in 2025, and we discussed just so many things, just getting to know each other and the passion of putting compute into space, and we bounced a lot of great ideas off one another, and I learned a lot from him, and I feel like he did learn a few things from me. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing at Star Cloud is very revolutionary, and so Philip actually invited me down to their first launch back in November of last year, putting the first data center into space. So I actually got to
Wow.
meet him and the Star Cloud team in person, hang out with them for a couple days. Like they're awesome people. They are well funded and
Mm-hmm.
very intelligent. And they are the ones to, I mean, they're already proving that you can run compute in space. So, doing Bitcoin mining in space, I mean, they've basically already proved the concept that you can put high performance compute into space and be able to energize it, to be able to cool it, to be able to communicate with it. Yeah, no, they are a great wealth of knowledge, and yeah, they're great people. I'm sure if you reached out to them, they'd probably come on for an interview too. I'm sure of it.
Oh, thanks. And they're also planning to mine Bitcoin in space this summer, right?
Yeah, so late this year they plan on launching a Bitcoin mining ASIC into space. So I'm super excited for them. I'm rooting for them. We're all on the same team, so it's all good stuff. It's such an exciting industry to be in right now, especially with just really the launch and rise of AI for one, SpaceX continuing to make improvements to make fully reusable rockets the norm, and also increasing the launch cadence. So they're driving the cost of launch down over time. So they're lowering the cost of access into orbit by doing what they're doing. So with Starship, they can launch 100 tons of payload into space. The rocket, both stages, is fully reusable. So it drives the cost of launch down significantly to the point where you can put data centers, Bitcoin miners into space and make it economically viable. So yeah, when you look at just the bigger picture of you know, energy intensive compute and reusable rockets. I mean, it's a match made in heaven. I mean, the next frontier is going to be utilizing space-based solar power for energy compute needs, and utilizing the cold of space to cool off this compute and relieve, you know, terrestrial energy grids and water and land mass from, you know, we basically have an alternative to where we can employ this compute rather than doing it on Earth. I honestly think that land masses and water is better used for, you know, purposes for humanity, like housing, agriculture, even just preserving it. So yeah, it's an exciting time. Like, there was never a point in time in history where this could be possible until very recently. So it's the new frontier. It's very exciting.
So, for our audience who doesn't know how this whole thing works, right? Can you explain it to them for them in layman terms? Like, how
Yeah.
would you make this possible? Like, how does this whole thing work? How is it gonna mine Bitcoin in this space? How is and all that stuff?
Yeah, no, that's a really great question. So you can put a Bitcoin mining ASIC inside of a satellite bus, which is radiation hardened already. And so you have solar arrays that deploy out, that give you the energy in the first place, that power the miners, and the miners are liquid cooled. So you've heard of immersion cooling miners. So you can take dielectric fluid, or also paraffin wax, and that creates a cooling loop to cool the miner while it is running and mining Bitcoin. So
Mm-hmm.
you put the satellite into orbit, the solar arrays deploy, gather the energy, run the miner, the cooling loop keeps the miner in operating temperature, and you can relay these hashes through Starlink back to Earth, which gives you high-speed internet connectivity.
I
So then
see. Okay.
you're basically converting stranded orbital solar energy into Bitcoin and sending that Bitcoin back to Earth. So you're monetizing stranded orbital solar energy into money that you can send to Earth. And then eventually, like, this lays the groundwork for interplanetary money. Because not only will you be able to send that back to Earth, but you could send that to Mars, you could send that to private space stations, you could send it to the moon.
So you need to basically collaborate with Starlink, right, to make this happen.
Yeah, that, or like Amazon Leo is another like low Earth orbit internet provider. So there's about 10,000 satellites in orbit currently, and Starlink has quite the majority of them. So there is actually a shield of high speed internet connectivity in low Earth orbit. So that's something that didn't exist, you know, like a decade ago. So that's also another thing that is the perfect storm lining up to make Bitcoin mining in space a reality.
So, okay, like that. Okay, that's pretty cool. Have you been talking to Starlink, Amazon Leo?
So I can't get fully into that yet. So
Okay.
we have initiated discussions with one of the two that you mentioned. So I'll leave you on a
Oh
cliffhanger
wow.
there.
What a synchronicity.
Yeah.
um, okay. And so, like usually Bitcoin miners, you have to like maintain them, right?
So yeah, that
And
on Earth for sure. Yeah, and I'll let you ask your question. Sorry.
yeah, so will you do the same thing in the space? Like, will you have to like constantly like, maintain it and then change it up every like maybe 24 months?
No, so it's a great question you asked. So what we do is we build it for long-lasting life. So these satellites can last between 10 to 20 years, 15 years if you want to take just the average of the two. So what we do is we build these Bitcoin mining satellites with a lot of redundancy, so a lot of like duplication of the process. So if something fails, it can go to another, basically the backup, and the backup can start on it and keep the operation running, whether it's part of the cooling loop, whether it's part of, energizing the miner, whether it's troubleshooting things that are happening to the miner itself, or like connectivity with the internet. There's a lot of redundancy built in this so that if one thing happens, it doesn't shut down your whole operation. So the beauty of what we're doing is we're going to be launching a satellite constellation. So we're going to be launching individual satellites that will link up together. So say you have a constellation of 100 satellites. If one or two miners fail and the redundancy isn't, if that doesn't fix the problem, then you still have a lot of other satellites that are mining Bitcoin and
Mm-hmm.
still producing and making money. And so one thing that we haven't touched on is that the Bitcoin mining part of it is a small byproduct revenue stream. Uh, the main revenue stream is actually leasing bandwidth. So uh, government telecommunications uh, use bandwidth, basically lease bandwidth for their own purposes and uses, and you can lease that bandwidth out for like $1,000 to $8,000 per megahertz. And there's
Mm-hmm.
about 40 megahertz that can be leased on the satellite, and the Bitcoin mining uses two of those megahertz. So on average, we can make 450,000 to $3.7 million per year per satellite. And with the Bitcoin mining, we actually make it just depends on where Bitcoin's price is on any given day.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a small byproduct revenue stream, but it's worth it because the amount of weight you put onto the satellite with the Bitcoin miners, it does pay itself off within a 5 to 10 year period. And that's if Bitcoin doesn't go up at all from where it's at today, which is at about $70,000 per coin.
Wow.
Yeah.
So three revenue stream. One is Bitcoin mining, the other one is licensing, and you're projecting a revenue of 450,000 USD to $3.7 million USD per year per satellite.
Um, so with the bandwidth leasing, it's 450,000 per year per
Mm-hmm.
satellite and upwards of $3.7 million per
Oh,
year per satellite.
3.7 million.
So the licensing that you brought up actually is part of the patent that we have pending, and once that gets granted, that is another avenue of revenue, is being able to license that technology out to other satellite constellations. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a little further
Freaking
down the
cool.
road. Yeah, yeah. So we have
Mm-hmm.
multiple revenue streams and ways to go about this. It's not like if the Bitcoin mining and space part of it fails, that the whole company fails. We make sure that we have multiple product revenue streams.
I see. So it says patent pending, right? Um, how long is it going to take to get approved?
So normally it takes about 2 years from the time you uh, apply and actually submit a patent. But
Mm-hmm.
with track one, which actually speeds up it basically puts you in the fast lane for getting your patent approved. So we have a anticipate granted status date of later this year, early next year.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. So right now you're in the R&D stage, right, with your co-founders, um, and you're talking to investors too, talking with potential partners to make this whole thing happen.
Yeah, most definitely. That's exactly where we're at. So yeah, it's come a long ways from just incepting the idea of Bitcoin mining in space. So yeah, it's a lot of fun to see where we're at today. But that's where we're at currently.
Yeah. Okay. And where are you raising funds right now? Obviously in the US, but are you raising funds from investors from other countries as well?
Yeah, so we've been approached by investors from all over the world. It's
Wow.
yeah, it's been pretty exciting. From all the way from London, even Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, but mostly in the U.S. though. So like San Francisco, New York, a couple from Miami.
Mm-hmm. So what are the challenges that you and your team are facing right now in terms of like maybe we could start with technical.
Okay. Yeah, no, the biggest challenge is actually cooling these machines in orbit.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been one of the biggest hangups is, yeah, if you can put high performance compute into outer space, how do you keep these machines cool enough to operate continuously? So, figuring out the basically the thermal management side of it, which we have at this point, and also with Star Cloud, they put up the first data center into space at the end of last year, which has shown results. So they actually
Mm-hmm.
proved in real time that you can run, large language models in space, AI data centers. So with Bitcoin mining, you look at just how similar the energy intensive nature of it is. And also similarly the cooling aspect of it, it can 100% happen. So for us with our with the R&D that we've done, we've figured out exactly how big a radiator needs to be, the exact amount of fluid cooling that we need, and how this small closed loop process needs to run in order to be successful in space. Because one thing, if you look at like the International Space Station,
Mm-hmm.
um, on a smaller level, they have to remove heat from electronics and also from the artificial environment that they've created in there for human habitat. So they have been proving for the last 25 years that you can remove heat from spacecraft. It's just when you put Bitcoin miners and data centers into space, the amount of surface area needed for a external thermal radiator to dissipate that heat is much larger in size. But from an engineering standpoint, it is 100% doable. So that's been one of our biggest challenges, is figuring that out. But it is, like I said, from an engineering standpoint, can 100% happen.
Oh yeah, it's just a matter of how, right? I'm sure you guys will figure that out like pretty quickly. Technology is advancing so fast these days, and I feel like it's also becoming easier to find the right people who can help you solve problems that you need to solve, especially with X, LinkedIn, internet,
Yeah.
and people are just more open in general. I feel like it's so much easier now than ever to find potential partners and collaborators,
Mhm.
even mentors, right? So, and how about like fundraising? Like, how is that like so far for you guys?
Oh,
If you don't
it,
mind sharing.
I don't mind at all. It was actually pretty interesting uh, for our journey. So it was baptism by fire. So like I said, what really started all this was Anthony Pompliano writing a Substack article about the idea that I had of Bitcoin mining in space, and when I introduced it to him. So he's got, at least at that time, like 250,000 paid subscribers on Substack, and most of them are investors and
Mm.
people with a lot of money, and also everyday people too. I mean, it's just it's a melting pot of a lot of people, but I found out, at least that on my end, from the people who reached out to me from that, a lot of it is venture capital and investors. So it was like having the idea, then a few days later, my DMs on Twitter were blowing up with venture
Yeah.
capital interest from all around the world. And so it was a world that I'd never been in before, but I learned pretty quickly how to navigate that world. And also, I have some friends that have done a lot of fundraising on the crypto side, on different crypto token projects, and I you know basically asked them exactly, just pick their brain on how to approach this, and they gave me a lot of good tips and pointers. But just understanding the concept as well as I did, it was easy to pitch to them, and a lot of them had the same critique, was like, you have a great idea, but what you need is technical co-founders to help you turn this from an idea
Mm-hmm.
and make it a reality. So from there, after hearing that about a dozen times, I went out and reached out to, like you were saying, like it's amazing what you can find on the internet as far as like connecting with people. Like the world
Mm-hmm.
is so much smaller than it ever
Yeah.
used to be. And it's amazing because I ended up meeting a lot of potential people that could have been my co-founders, but they're just great people and contacts I have in general. But I eventually narrowed it down to the two co-founders I have today, and they are the perfect people for this job. Like I said, um, they have the technical background, they have they're orange pilled, they fully understand the vision, and so I handled a lot of the pitching, and well, pitching and fundraising early on. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's nice to have my co-founders and us doing more R&D to go back to these VCs and be able to say, hey, let's meet at the table again. We have a lot more done that will hopefully get you across the line to fund us and see the long-term vision with us. So yeah, no, it's been a blessing how everything's come along and fallen into place. But yeah, a lot of what we're doing is just interacting with venture capital that reached out at the beginning, but they understood that more time was needed to get to a place where they could actually, uh, you know, cross that line and feel comfortable with funding us. So yeah, just making a lot of great connections, and yeah, it's getting closer than ever to actually getting through our pre-seed, which is what we desperately need to get our pilot satellite into orbit, and then from there we're really off to the races. So yeah, and it's amazing with like Star Cloud and uh, their advances that they've made and how much attention they've actually brought to what we're doing as well. So it's like a really good symbiotic relationship there, because what they do is ultimately helping us, and hopefully we can like return the favor in due time as well
Mm-hmm.
as we get bigger. So interacting with VCs and fundraising is it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool people out there that have you know a good amount of capital to invest in really cool things like what we're doing.
How much are you trying to raise right now?
So we're trying to raise 3 million for pre-seed at a $30 million valuation. So it would
Awesome.
give it would give 10% equity. So I mean, from there, shoot, you look at the progression that Star Cloud has had. They started out, man. I mean, it was pretty small initially. I think they raised 2.4 million about 2 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and they just recently, and that was in their early seed rounds, and they just recently raised $170 million in Series A like a week
Yeah.
ago. So it's amazing how much attention has come to this space and how much value there is to unlock in this space, because putting Bitcoin miners and data centers into space, it's a birth of a brand new industry that never existed before, and it has a
Mm-hmm.
immense value to be able to convert energy sources in a location agnostic manner, and be able to convert that to either intelligence or hard money. Yeah, it's very revolutionary. So yeah, it's the birth of a brand new industry, and it's only going to grow exponentially as time goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how does it feel to be a co-founder and CEO of such company?
It's
Do you
amazing.
sleep?
I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I have to pinch myself. Feels like a dream. So
That's
yeah, no,
awesome.
it's a blessing. It's a blessing. So I have nothing to complain about. It's been a lot of fun. It's a heck of a challenge for sure.
Like, do you find it stressful? Are there times when you're like, what am I doing? What I'm doing? Or no? You're
There's
just like
definitely
excited about it.
times. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been times where I question. I'm like, am I really the person for this? Yeah, there's definitely times where like, and I think this happens with other things in life too, is that doubt can creep in. But I think it's just showing up every day, doing the hard work, and seeing consistent progress happening over time as you put in the hard work. And then when you just take a second to like reflect and look back, you're like, oh my God, I've made so much progress. Like, this is exciting. Like, why like a couple months ago was I down and out because I couldn't convince a firm that has, $10 billion to just invest a couple $1 million into me? Like, why was I so down and out about it? Because it's like as the time goes on, more and more opportunities just end up opening up for you if you just don't give
Mm-hmm.
up.
Yeah.
So then, fast forward, a couple months from the time I might have been a little bummed out, it's like now the story is totally different. It's like, wow, now I actually have a couple more VCs that actually see the vision. They're willing to put their money towards this and like make this a reality. And Yeah, I know that that time is coming soon, and I've gotten a lot better feedback as time has gone on. So it's kind of funny when you look back at being kind of bummed out about something in the past. It's like that can all be erased with just one good thing that happens from just consistent hard work over time, and just staying on the straight and narrow and staying positive too. That's a big thing.
Yeah, and you seem really positive, and I feel like, it's just a matter of time. And how does your timeline look like? Like, when do you plan to launch the first, space-based solar power?
So in late 2027 is what we're targeting. So we have a year and a half. We have a year and a half.
Wow.
So you can actually take, you can go on SpaceX.com
Mm-hmm.
and you can actually literally book a launch and put a down payment with your credit card. So that's what we've done. So we have a year and a half to get this done. So we have a slot, and
Mm-hmm.
it's trying to thread a needle. And if we don't launch, then we lose our deposit. Oh well. I would rather be well prepared than try to play catch up. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but I would agree with
Absolutely.
you. I do feel like I'm just kind of like eternally optimistic. There's really no way else to go about life. Life's too short.
Oh, yeah, and that's such a good mindset, right? I feel like now in, time of like AI and robotics, more and more people, especially builders in the tech and AI space, they're building in the space, but then they're also like quite pessimistic about the future. Maybe you can quickly give us your thoughts around that. Like, how do you envision the future?
Oh boy. In the context of AI, as long, when I look at like AI in specific, it all depends on the integrity of the person who is in charge of like how the large language models work and what biases may or may not be programmed into them. So, y- yeah, that's the challenge. I mean, also too, if there's like a bad country out there that ends up employing
Mm-hmm.
AI for all the wrong reasons, like taking out humanity and we can't stop it, that would be
Mm-hmm.
awful. But I don't think that's like the base case at all. But I think it's something to be aware of at least. But the way I see the future going though is that, AI helps more people learn at a quicker pace, and you actually end up having like a smarter society because like the cost of access to get AI, which is essentially as time goes on, is going to have a higher IQ than like any human that ever lived on Earth, and is like a very patient and good teacher and can go at your own pace. So like you look at like the public school system, I think that's probably going to go away. There'll be less indoctrination. There's going to be
Yeah.
a lot, if you use the right AI, platform that doesn't introduce
Mm-hmm.
like terrible biases, I think there's a potential for humanity to get much more intelligent and much more efficient and productive, which will, if you look at being more, you know, intellectually capable or smart, and you look at like a lot of the core issues with humanity, which is like one of the biggest ones is money. So you look at, something like Bitcoin where there's no centralized leader, somebody programmed perfect, a perfect algorithmic code from the start. They don't control it. It has a hard cap at 21 million. It can be accessible to anybody. You can, save it as you want in self custody. You can transact any way you want with it, and no government or bad entity can tell you what to do with it. As more people get educated, and I think that's the biggest thing is like the financial education.
Yeah.
Once that gets up to par, and I think AI will help teach the masses about financial education, I think there's gonna be a lot more Bitcoin adopters, and people will be able to save their you know time and energy. Which, if you look at the best form of time and energy denominated to money, you look at Bitcoin. So like it actually if you've bought and held Bitcoin for over 4 years, you've never lost money, even with inflation adjusted. So it's the best way to
Mm-hmm.
protect your purchasing power. You can, as you've probably seen with having your own business that takes Bitcoin, you can transact in Bitcoin without having to worry about a third party, and you can transact on a weekend or a holiday, and have to be told what you can and can't do with your money. So I think when you look at all things considered, AI and Bitcoin are going to be kind of married as one. It's going to help society out at large.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I agree with you. Like for me, the way I see the future is that it might go really bad, it might be fine, but at the same time, it's like, what are we gonna do, right? Like we only have this one life. We might as well try to do our best to help build a better and brighter future. And that's why I wanted to, start this podcast. I want to interview people who are building for a better and brighter future, people like you. And it's amazing. And that's why at the same time, I'm also like not so pessimistic about the future, because if there are people building right now things that would benefit humanity, and that would make the world a better place, then I feel like a lot of these fear mongering about AI is, a lot of it is also clickbait,
Oh,
because fear sells, but at the same time, I feel like excitement sells too. Like, what you're doing is pretty exciting. People want to hear that. And I feel like, it inspires a lot of people and the younger generation too, because they see someone like you and they're like, whoa, if he can do something like that, and he claims he has no background in that, industry, because it's not even an industry yet, right? It's an
yeah.
industry in the making, this, everything that can happen in the space, then they can probably do it too. And this podcast episode right here. It's a master class on how to turn things around for yourself. It doesn't mean that because you studied one thing that you're stuck there. No, you can change. You can change lanes. And you just have to like put yourself out there, take risks, connect with people online, offline, use X, use LinkedIn, and you meet people like Nick Moran, right?
And you meet people like Margie Ramos, who is a lot
Oh.
of fun to talk to. And I really appreciate that you decided to reach out to me and we had this conversation. Like, to touch on your point, I honestly think you can wake up at any moment and decide who and what you want to be. You know, I don't know any other point in time where there's been this much opportunity, where
Mm-hmm.
everybody, most people have a smartphone that can connect to internet, and you can reach out to anybody you want in the world. Like, and also to have AI, which doesn't cost you much if you want like the best models. You can literally have Einstein in your pocket who you can talk to and
Mm-hmm.
ask any question you want, and it'll figure out all these different things that would have taken you probably weeks or months to study in a library if you could find the right book. So it's like it's really interesting to me that there's so much emphasis out there on like doomerism, because like the future's never looked brighter. It's just, I think you have to understand that a lot of things that, like, there's a lot more positive out there happening in the world than negative. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I hope that someday the algorithm, whether it's like, whatever social media platform anybody uses, I just hope that the algorithm shifts more towards positive, and I bet you that you would see an improvement in humanity all around the world. There's just too many good things going on and so much opportunity to be had that it would be just a shame to not try to go after any of it because you're too worried about the world ending.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if the world is ending, we wouldn't have builders like you, right? Because what's the point, right? So,
Exactly, yeah.
yeah. And yeah, so one last thing before we end this conversation. What unconventional views or beliefs that you have that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Unconventional views, huh?
I mean, what you're doing is already unconventional, right?
Yeah, I feel like Bitcoin mining in space is a pretty unconventional view, but it will eventually be
Okay,
consumed.
one more thing.
Yeah.
It's not unconventional enough.
I honestly, like I said earlier, I believe you do miss all the shots you don't take in life. It's amazing to me that you can just reach out to people on the internet and
Yeah.
more people will be willing to help you out than you give the process credit for. And I do believe that everything happens for a reason too. Like we wouldn't be sitting here talking if I didn't have the idea of Bitcoin mining in space, and if Anthony Pompliano and Mark Yusko didn't orange pill me back in the day, and also if Elon Musk didn't continue pressing on and making reusable rockets more of a normal thing. Yeah, I just think that everything in life lines up at a certain time for a reason. And people say that luck is when preparation and opportunity intersect, and if that's the case, I feel like one of the luckiest people in the world. So there's a few little one-liners for you.
Mhm. Do you actually believe in synchronicity? Because I feel like listening to your story, it sounds like you're somebody who's very good with like pattern recognition, but also like not only you recognize, patterns or like quickly see opportunities, you actually do something about it.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I feel like I definitely fit that bill. Like I think if you're just paying attention and you can, I think that's the biggest thing is having like a conscious awareness of like what problems there are, like whether it's in your life or in the world, and understanding that, you know, anybody can go out there and fix them. It's just they need to take the time and have like the fire lit under them, whether it's from themselves or others, to go make it happen. Because like the cure to anxiety, I feel like is just taking action. So like if you're
Mm-hmm.
anxious about like how certain things are happening in your life or what things are happening in the world, just like look at what's within your control and be able to take action to make take a problem and make a solution, because if nobody else is willing to do it, then you kind of take it on yourself or find people that are willing to help you, and you have power in numbers as you gain momentum and really attack a problem. You will come up with a solution, and anybody can do it. I think that
Mm-hmm.
we're all kind of conditioned growing up. I mean, at least in the US, I don't know what it's like in Canada or elsewhere you've lived, but we're basically kind of taught, you're going to work a 40-hour work week, like get used to
Mm-hmm.
sitting somewhere for 8 hours a day, having a couple breaks, and you're not going to do anything crazy impressive or important. But like we were pointing out with how much opportunity there is today and how easy it is to connect with people and how small the world really is now.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think that what I grew up on is the norm anymore. I think that anything is possible if you put your time, focus, and energy towards it, and have a good intention with it as well.
I believe the same thing now. It's just because, I really got into pattern recognition. I don't know how long ago, probably a year ago or so. And I noticed that, like, with my record is like when I'm present and I pay attention and I see an opportunity, I take action, I participate, I get involved. And then something big just kind of like happens. And I'm like, whoa, how is this possible? And then I'm like, okay, so maybe if I just keep doing that, right? Like, be present, pay attention. When an opportunity comes, you take action, right? But it has to be the right opportunity too, obviously. You take action, then you participate, and then just see what happens. Um, and I feel like that's the thing that's happening now. A lot of people are kind of like wired to not pay attention and to just kind of like go through life, because sometimes I'm kind of like, wait, that happened, that means something. What are you gonna do about it, right? But a lot of people are kind of just like, that doesn't mean anything. But I'm kind
Yeah.
of like, no, maybe that means something. But like with you, for example, right? You're like, you reached out to Anthony Pompliano, and then one thing led to another, and here you are now.
Yeah. I don't think there's any coincidences in life. I really don't. I think everything happens for a reason. And I think it's also obvious in hindsight too, when you look back. In the moment, you might not understand why something is
Mm-hmm.
happening or why things are lining up the way they are, but I think given enough time in hindsight, it's always 2020. I really
Yeah,
do.
and you should never underestimate anyone. Like anyone can become like the next big thing, you know? And I see a lot of people like that too in tech. Like I've been in tech for over 10 years. Um, and like I go to these networking events and like that girl or that guy who's like, has this idea that people everybody snobs suddenly becomes like out there pitching to like dragons on Dragon's Den. And I'm like, whoa, like her, no way. Like you just never know. So I feel like it's so important to like never underestimate anyone, because like what you
Oh,
said,
totally.
anything can happen now, like you know
Yeah, I love how you put that. Like I wouldn't underestimate anybody, and I think it's better to encourage people no matter how, simple or crazy of an idea that they have. Because
mm-hmm.
if somebody has a really good work ethic and really good self-discipline and is willing to put themselves out there and ask dumb questions too and just
Yeah.
reach out to anybody that can help, like eventually they're going to make it happen or become successful. So like a lot of people want to hate from the sidelines, but then once that person, actually achieves their goals, they want to like cheer them on. It's like
Yeah.
it is kind of funny to see that progression because I've seen that with a lot of other people and I guess to myself in a smaller extent. But you look at like I guess one cool story that I always kind of like look back on is you look at like Jeff Bezos and how he started Amazon. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he came from New York City all the way to Seattle, which I mean, that's all the way across the country. And he
Yeah.
started up a bookstore. I mean, the mainstream media couldn't quite understand how you make like an online bookstore super profitable or meaningful. And then you fast forward, shoot like 20, 30 years into the future and look at what he's created with Amazon. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not only,
And Blue Origin, right? Like it's sending, rockets into
yeah,
space.
exactly. It was like a positive compounding effect that Amazon was so wildly successful that he could fund like Blue Origin to now, continue launching payload into space and exploring the cosmos. I mean, it's such a positive flywheel, and he's like a perfect example of like if you stay present and stay hardworking and don't like compare yourself to others, and you stay
Mm-hmm.
in your lane, you work as hard as you can, and and just never lose sight of the bigger picture. Like you can create something that's wildly successful. Yeah, it's very inspiring. And I mean, there's a lot of other people too. I point out Mark Cuban, especially Elon Musk. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there's so many good examples out there that it makes, at least in my case, doing something that is, sounds pretty wild. It just like makes it feel like it's that much more achievable because I've seen the blueprint for it in a bigger sense over my life with Elon, Bezos, and Mark Cuban. So those would be like the top three there that I kind of look up to.
Yeah. Oh, this is awesome. Nick, I know you're busy, so I'm gonna, let you go now. And thank you so much, again for making time and for sharing, your journey with us, what you're doing, and also like just, for having this conversation. It's very inspiring. I'm inspired, and I'm pretty sure, our audience, viewership, they're feeling inspired now too.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on, Margie. It was a pleasure getting to meet you, one, and getting to talk to you. And yeah, I wish you the best of luck with your podcast and your businesses into the future. And I'd love to talk again as time goes along and we make more progress.
Sounds good. Thank you, Nick. Bye now.